Hey guys, it is Sunday night. You know what time that is? It's Pro Prep Baseball time. I'm Ken Arnold.
Tommy Weber.
How's it going out there, folks? As always, please comment, ask questions. Whatever you guys want to talk about, we're here to talk about baseball. And other things too, not just baseball. We get sometimes we go off on a tangent and talk about movies or whatever else there is out there. So how was your week, Tommy? Everything good?
Good.
I'm gonna make sure we're up here on Facebook. So
Getting a little warmer, so can't complain with that.
no, it's nice to actually get outside and be able to run around and do some stuff without.
Yep.
It's a blessing. So there we go. All right, we're up. Cool. Let's see if we are on YouTube as well. And yes, we are. There we go. Victor Coco's on. Thanks, Vic.
Hey,
Thanks
Victor.
for joining us. So the baseball season started, Webbs. You excited?
Yes,
I see
it did.
a lot of cool stuff.
Eesh.
A
Oh, boy.
465-foot bomb from Bryce Harper. How about that? That was pretty exciting. I will say this. I'm a Phillies fan, and I have not, since 2008, 2009, seen that stadium that, excited. In a long time. It's been a while. So, but it was exciting.
If they stay healthy, you're going to have a lot of fun this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm watching right now. I'm watching them. They're playing the Braves again, and a lot of walks, man. Both sides. 3 in a row from the Braves pitcher. Kid, he walked Harper, Hoskins, and then Realmuto. He walked all 3 of them, and then what's his name came up and struck out Herrera because I think he stinks. I think he's terrible. So, but anyway, that's my thoughts on the Phillies for today. So.
Good.
The Yankees seem to be, the Yankees. They win one, they lose one.
Did they win today?
I don't even know. Did they?
They were losing.
Yeah.
They were losing to the Orioles.
They probably lost again to a
The
AAA
Orioles
squad.
are horrendous. The Orioles are horrible.
Name one person on the Orioles not named Chris Davis. Can you?
I can't name a guy.
Yeah,
Nope.
I can't name a guy either. I know no one on the Orioles, and I live 20 minutes outside of Baltimore.
They're
I
bad.
can't even tell you who's on the team. It's ridiculous. But they beat the Yankees. And they had a nice celebration in the locker room.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Go ahead, Webbs. Let's hear that.
No, listen. I mean, it's starting to happen. It's all so much the same thing that it starts to have no value at all. Now, when a manager gets his first win, they have to, throw beer and water and champagne on his head. It's more likely that he won't be the manager next year than he's going to have any success with a team like that. So I guess nobody can sneak up on anybody anymore. Every victory seems to be the same. So like the silly walk-off celebrations that I guess managers don't care if their players get hurt. This is the same kind of thing. It's just, to me, asinine to do things like that, in my opinion. And, of course, baseball is such a copycat game that once somebody does it, everybody feels they have to do it.
Yeah, that's true. The pie in the face, the shaving cream thing,
Right.
that went. Everybody had to do that.
Right. And it's the reality is nobody could be there's nothing original about it. You're only doing what somebody else has already done.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just don't think winning your first major league game is worthy of a champagne celebration. A handshake, a really nice New York City dinner would have been appropriate. The team takes him out to dinner, or his coaches take him out to dinner. That would have been more than enough. This is just such over the top social media stuff. Is all this is really. They know everything's going to be broadcast on something, so they make a gigantic production out of it, and it really, I just think it falls really short of being anything genuine anymore.
Yeah, it's just a little strange to see a champagne celebration after the first game of the season.
In March.
Your first win, and I think it's just gotten to the point where we have to have a major celebration for everything every day.
Everything.
You have 162 games to celebrate or not celebrate, and you know what? Make it mean something when it comes down to the end of the season and that's when it's time to celebrate. You make the playoffs, after a long hard season, celebrate. You make it to the next round, you make it to the World Series, celebrate, right?
This feels like everybody gets a trophy on steroids.
Yeah, So, but I am glad the season is back. I am glad that we have baseball every day.
Yeah, me too.
I like to turn it on. I like to listen to it while it's playing in the background, and it's just it's. And I know you know this. When I was a kid and we listened to the game on the radio, it was like, I don't want to say it was like church, but it was like church. The radio was on. We were listening to the radio, the game, and then we were doing other things. But the game was always there. It was always in the background.
It was your background noise. It was really cool. I love listening to games. I think listening to games is fabulous. You have to really use your imagination and see in your mind what's happening on the field based on the description given to you by the commentator. It's really cool. I've always loved. I've probably listened to as many games as. I've watched more, but I've listened to tons of games because you're in the car a lot. When you're in the car, you're listening to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I love when I was driving places, whether it was to New York or whether it was, if I was going down south, you just put the game on, man. Just put the game on, sit back, and just listen to the game. When I drive from New York to Maryland during the summer, I'll put whatever game I can find. Usually it's the Phillies game because I'm driving through that area, the Philly area. But I'll have the Yankees on when I leave New York, or the Mets, and then go through Philly, have the Phillies on, and then when I get to Baltimore, I'll put the O's on, or the Nationals.
I don't know, but I'm sure you know this. I find it interesting that you've listened to and watched so many games that your mind, even though you can't see the play, as the play is being described, you know whether or not it's going to be a hit or whether or not the runner is going to be safe, just by the way in which the announcer describes the play. Like a ground ball hit deep in the hole, you know who's running. You know what deep in the hole means. The chances are highly likely that the runner is going to beat that ball out or be thrown out. I find myself very accurately able to predict a lot of what's going to happen as if I'm seeing it. Mm-hmm. So that almost seeing it and listening have become the same thing.
Yep, and of course, great announcers, as Victor Coco says, make the game great. They make it
much better.
Yeah, and you can actually see what they are talking about. You can see it because they're so good at it. And then conversely, bad announcers take you right out of it.
Yeah,
just like,
they get in the way. Yeah. They get in the way.
You're like, come on.
And then, it's like it's like acting.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about subtlety, nuance. It's not about overacting. Anybody can overact.
Yeah.
But if you want to hit the nail on the head and you want to really, nail the performance, it's about that pocket that you get into, which is somewhere very, very close, but just not overacting. And it's the same thing on broadcasting. Some guys just and women just can't stop talking, and it gets in the way. Yeah. Others allow the crowd to tell you what's going on, the result of the play, things like that.
And then they just color it in where necessary.
Right.
And it's fantastic.
Like music.
Yeah.
Like music.
Yep. And you know what, Weber? That made sense to me because I'm one hell of an overactor. I'll tell you that right now.
I know that. I taught you how to overact. Gesticulate.
Thank you. Be big. Be big. Use a lot of hand movements. And
When in doubt.
When in doubt. Use your face.
Right.
Like Jim Carrey.
Right.
That's great. Hey, I wanted to bring up something tonight. We talked about the celebrating thing and the over celebrations and all that you see constantly. I wanted to talk about when you were a kid. I was sitting there thinking today about different things that when I was growing up and I was playing baseball. What are some of the memories when you were a kid, and one specific one, if you can, that made baseball the thing that you were going to do as you were growing up? What was it, the one thing you could remember?
It just so happens that today my wife and I went back to Brooklyn and walked the street that I was born on and raised, played in the street. Obviously, everything looks a lot smaller than it did when you were 7 years old.
Sure.
But it was really cool to go back and remember my brother, myself, our friends, how many kids got together and played literally in the street. I'm sure, everybody did that. So that was a part of it. My father played. It was a scout. So I was in a very baseball-centric household. I mean, that was really the thing that I think sealed the deal for me. And then I'm sure a chance encounter meeting Mickey Mantle at 7 years old.
Wow, that's amazing.
Made me a Yankee fan and a baseball guy for life. Things that happen, irrespective of what it really is. When you're a kid, it's Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle was like Michael Jordan times 1,000.
Yeah.
Baseball was the only game at that time, and Mickey Mantle was the guy. So I would say that's pretty much what did it. And then, too, I think what happens, is as I got older, I started to appreciate the game. I think back at a really young age, I knew a lot about the game. I just did. I mean, when I was 10, 11, 12, I was in this house. My father was like, watching games with my father was like listening to music with Mozart. You just, he just watched and saw the game in such a sophisticated way that it couldn't help but rub off on me. So as I got older, I started to really appreciate the craft of the game. The taking 1,000,000 ground balls and taking batting practice and, working on base running and all the things that really make you a player. So I loved the work of it. And if it's just like acting or music or anything else that you do, if you can enjoy the toil, then you got a chance to get something out of it, to really appreciate it. Not that you're going to get something out of it and make millions of dollars, but in the end, you're going to get something out of it because it means so much to you. And I felt a very healthy dose of desperation every day. I felt like I had to get up and do something baseball every day. I wasn't desperate. I had food to eat, and my grandparents loved us. But, I felt the first thought I had in the morning was, how am I going to get my ground balls? How am I going to hit? How am I going to do something? So that's what that amalgam of events is what made me a baseball guy.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
How about you?
The thing is, if you don't find joy in it, why do it? And that's the key.
Well, there are a lot of guys who don't find, but I think today a lot of players. We talk about this a lot. I think today a lot of players, it's not a joyful experience. It's not. It's a potentially beneficial experience. If you hit the lottery and, all of a sudden you're a second-round pick, obviously you're going to enjoy that. But would they enjoy it if there was no major leagues? That's really the question.
Yeah. All right. So you asked me what was the moment for me. My mom took me to a game at the Vet when I was a kid, and I don't know how old I was. I guess
at the Vet.
At the Vet.
Oh, at the Vet.
Yeah, you remember the prison in Philadelphia, the Vet. That place. So my mom took me to a game when I was 10, maybe, I guess. I don't know. But she took us down to where the players, their locker room was. And for some reason, and I don't know how we got to where we were, but there was a tunnel. And all I remember was seeing this guy standing down at the end of the tunnel. And he looked like a giant. And he was in that Phillies baby blue uniform they used to wear.
Yeah, they were nice. I loved those uniforms.
And he was standing at the end of the tunnel, and I walked over to him, and it was like that Mean Joe Green moment, except it wasn't Mean Joe Green. And I'm just like sitting there looking up at this dude like he was just gigantic. It was a pitcher. It was Ron Reed. I don't know if you remember.
Oh,
Ron
sure.
Reed.
Right-hander.
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 Relief pitcher. Yeah, Ron Reed. And I was just like standing like, oh, wow. Like he was a giant. And just sitting there going, I want to be like this guy.
This guy, yeah. That's how it happens. That's cool.
Like this guy. And then that was it. From that point on, it was like outside. I'm playing baseball. I'm doing baseball things. I'm trying to be Mike Schmidt. I'm trying to be Larry Bowa. I'm trying to be, and then the Yankees were very popular because they were winning in the mid-'70s. So, I'm trying to be Reggie Jackson, Willie Randolph, Bucky Dent. I was trying to be
That's interesting.
Guys.
It's interesting you say that. That's something also that's kind of gone that I like to work on with my players is why aren't you imitating other players? Like, you should be imitating other players. Try to, I don't know, if you like the way Willie Randolph catches the ball, why don't you catch it like him?
Or attempt to. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's how we do everything else. That's how we learn how to speak. We imitate other people. So I wish kids watched more baseball. I think they would. I think they'd be more inclined to do those kinds of fun things. But baseball now is increasingly becoming more rotisserie and fantasy than it is a game that anybody really watches from start to finish.
Yeah.
It's very rare people watch games from start to finish. And you really can only appreciate the game if you watch it as a continuum from the first inning to the ninth, because what happens in the first inning might affect what happens in the ninth inning.
Yeah, and you get the full story, as in just popping in here and there. It's just like watching a movie. You get some of the story, you don't get the whole. You don't know how we got to where we are. So
this I could do this. That's not the song. You have to play chords and a line, but that's just a couple of notes. What players experience now is a couple of notes, and that note is usually a bat flip, or somebody showing them, exit velocity or a 100-mile-an-hour pitch that's thrown. Not any context, which is why when I go to these college games, I went to a college game yesterday. Ohio State was playing Rutgers. Kid from Ohio State played for us in the Cape last summer, so I went to see him. And, wow, man, it's hard to watch. It really is. It is hard to watch. It's like...
Did anybody flip a bat? Did anybody bat flip?
It's, there was no bat flips because... I found this interesting, and you should weigh in on this. It was a 25-mile-an-hour wind blowing in. The fence in center field is 415 feet, 330 down the lines. This is a big ballpark to begin with.
Yeah.
And every kid is trying to hit the ball in the air.
Yeah.
And every fly ball, literally, is a dead out. A dead out. I mean, if I were the managers, I would have had the outfielders, 40 feet from the infielders. You just couldn't hit the ball over anybody's head. Yet, time after time, player after player for a doubleheader kept trying to. Nobody said to themselves, you know what? Based on the context today and the conditions, we can't hit the ball in the air. We got to make an adjustment. But they don't do it.
Well, that's the problem, right? And what's the definition of insanity? You just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and achieving the same result. Yeah, and then you expect that different result, and it doesn't happen. Yeah, so I don't get it. You've got to do and that I don't care if the wind's blowing or not. You still have to make adjustments in a game. Depending on what's going on, depending on the situation. Look, if you got a guy that's out there dealing and he's throwing a lot of sinker balls, guess what? You're going to hit the ball on the ground most times. So why are you trying to, maybe a hit and run, maybe it's a one-run game, maybe you got a bunt, move a guy over, whatever, but you adjust. And that's the problem that you don't see is people making adjustments.
Now, these are two games where runs were at a premium, right? Okay. Runs were at a premium. You couldn't score. I mean, it was hard to score. No matter what you did, it was hard to score. 3 times in the game, in the first game, 3 times, a team had a runner on third and less than 2 out, infield back, and couldn't hit a ground ball to the infield. Struck out or hit a fly ball. Yeah. Short fly ball where the runner couldn't score.
Yeah.
So there's where you want a ground ball. You want a ground ball because, A, you got a shot for it to be a base hit. B, if you hit it to the middle of the infield, you score a run.
John Smoltz was talking about that on MLB Network yesterday.
Oh, they must hate when he says that.
Yeah, because he's like, it's a 2-0 game. I would have taken a ground ball to the shortstop right there to get that run in, so we're 1 run closer. Because, like you said, runs were at a premium. Nobody was scoring any runs. But nobody wants to do that. It's not sexy. It's not, it's not going to make the highlight reel. Definitely not going to make the highlight reel. So.
Well, what they'll tell you is that over time, you're better off hitting the ball at a certain angle. But the problem is you don't get to choose what angle you hit the ball at. And also, that's over time. In this instant, it's a lot easier to play pepper with the second baseman or the shortstop than it is to get a ball in the air and get a ball deep enough in the air.
I heard an interesting thing the other day on the radio. There was a study done. There are more foul balls per game now than there were 10 years ago, like 20, 25
I'm sure.
more. And they said it makes the game longer. So, again, I attribute that to this last 10 years of hitting where everybody's told to drop and just go.
And swing
like
as hard.
this.
Also, and swing as hard as you can.
Every pitch. Not even on like
Right.
two
When you're
strikes.
swinging as hard as you
Boom.
can, you're less likely to make solid contact.
So guess what? You're going to foul the ball off a lot. You're going to miss the ball a lot. You're not.
There's a lot of accidental hitting now, especially at high levels. A lot of accidental hitting where you're swinging as hard as you can. You hope the ball hits your bat, and if it does, it's going to go a long way. It is. That's why we're celebrating guys who are going to hit 260 with 23 home runs and 79 RBIs.
And we're giving them a lot of money
Yes, we are.
for that, which makes
Yes, we
no
are.
sense. It makes me. I just don't get it. The guy hits 30 home runs, drives in 80 runs, and they're giving him. Did you see that Dodgers game the other day when they hit 9 home runs or whatever, 8 home runs in the opening day, and the score was 12-9. They hit 8
Right.
home runs, and the score was 12-9.
It should be 20 to 14.
Exactly, at the very least, right? But 8 solo home runs it seemed like they hit. I was like, the score was 12-9. They hit 8 home runs. Was anybody on base? Or, it was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So talk about, we texted earlier, talk about the women's experience at the college level you were talking about, the sports.
Well, the conversation with Tommy Weber is going to, I guess, drop tomorrow, and I had on Jasmine Sina, who's a point guard on the St. John's University women's basketball team. She's a student of mine in the graduate school at St. John's, one of my classes. And, for years, even when I was at Wagner, I used to take the women's golf team up to Yale, and the experience driving them and, hanging out with them and just listening to their conversation was so diametrically opposed to what I had experienced all those years with the men on the bus and in the vans and just being around the men's game. Obviously, it really was a stark contrast to me, and I wondered why. It wasn't just about gender, and I started to think. I think the very thing that women lament, which is lack of opportunities after school in sports as players, and there are very few, and there are a million reasons why. But that doesn't change the fact that there are just very few opportunities for women to make lots of money as basketball players, softball players, hockey players. I think actually it's a benefit to women because what it does is it creates for them an urgency to appreciate what they're doing when they're doing it. They don't look too far ahead. Women use words to describe their experience in college, like community and the opportunities and the friendships and the connections that we made and the bonds for life. Sure. And all too often, as you know, men commoditize their sport. They want to get something in return, so their eye is on this faraway prize. I think it takes them away from appreciating now, today, here. And when they leave, a lot of them, and are bitter because they didn't get anything in return for what they did.
Sure.
And the reality is the pot of gold doesn't exist because there are very, very, very few guys who ever get to share in that pot of gold. So to make that some kind of priority is setting yourself up for inevitable failure. And I just think that we can learn a really valuable lesson from the women if we could experience our sports and as parents, coaches, and mentors, encourage our kids to experience our sports with utter disregard for what may come from them. Yeah. When I hear, where's he going to go? Does he have a shot? What's he going to do? You know what, dude? Here's what's going to happen. Yeah. He's going to wind up working just like everybody else. So, let it go. And I do believe that because of that, a lot of kids are playing and putting a lot of time in, who, if I think you got inside their head and gave them some truth serum, they would say, I really don't want to do this.
Yeah. No, you would have a lot of kids like that. I can tell you right now.
And I don't blame them. I don't blame them.
I can tell you right now, the kids on my team, I can look around that team and know who really wants to be there. Just by their body language, just by how they stand, just how whether or not they're actually listening to what I'm saying.
But their parents want them there.
Yeah, of course their parents want them there.
Their parents they really think this is something they should be doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just think that I just love to watch the women play and participate. I think it's a really joyful way to experience sports and competition. It seems like a relatively more anxiety-free experience than the men. The men are just constantly on. And I watched these games yesterday, and you could just see etched on the faces of the men, of the players and their parents, this like impending doom if they ground it out, or if a pitcher didn't get a guy out. Like there was something really at stake, and there just isn't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, there really isn't. And that's the thing, like you said, to really experience and enjoy something, you've got to be present in the moment. You can't be looking
in
beyond.
the moment.
You can't be looking beyond, because tomorrow isn't given. You know what I mean? And like they say, it's a gift. So if you wake up tomorrow and you get to live tomorrow, that's a gift. Because, and I went through it when I was playing. I was looking beyond, but yet I was still able to be in the moment and have fun with the guys. And I'm still really good friends with you and a lot of guys from that.
Yeah, that was a unique. Days. That was a unique group, and I've been fortunate to be a part of a number of those groups. I'm part of one right now. I mean, I'm wearing my Sun Devils t-shirt, baby, because I am on the Arizona State bandwagon, because one of my best friends in the whole world, Hunter Bishop, and Gage Workman, one of my favorite people, are absolutely killing it. And, it's wonderful to be a part of that. It is. But all too often, I think, players are looking so far into the future that you're conspiring against your success in the present. Because here's the deal. You hit, run, field, throw, and pitch in the present, not in the future. So take care of what's – I mean, you've heard this from me. I tell guys all the time, take care of what's right in front of you. For all you know, you get hit by a bus leaving the field. So worry about today's ground, the next ground ball, the next at-bat, the next pitch, not what some scout or what some high school or college coach might think 4 weeks from now or a month from now. You can't control that.
Yeah, no. And, speaking from experience, I was told things by scouts that never came to fruition, that never happened.
Of course.
Never.
Of course.
So, I mean, really. And I hung things on that. I hung things on their words.
We all do.
I was like waiting, and it never happened. And, I was fortunate enough to have somebody actually like me and give me an opportunity.
That's
but,
right.
man, I at one point.
And you use a good word. Fortunate.
Yes,
Luck.
I was very fortunate.
Luck plays a big role in this. It's not a meritocracy. It's not golf.
No,
it's not. In golf, if I shoot 65...
You're moving forward. Yeah, because you're good.
I'm good.
Yeah,
right.
You're good. You're moving forward. You're moving ahead. You're good. You can compete. That's your number. That's your score. It's the same thing, if you're a swimmer or anything else. Anytime it's an individual sport. You're a boxer, you win, you move on. Team sports are not like that. You have to have somebody who believes in you.
It's very subjective.
Yes, and gives you an opportunity. I mean, you have to have some talent, but you still.
But in the end, you have to be picked. You got to be picked. You can't get yourself picked.
And at that point, at the end at Wagner College, I thought that I wasn't going to get picked, and it was hard.
Right.
And then fortunately, I've got a phone call, and they said, "Hey, you want to come play?" And I jumped at the experience. So yeah, but like you said, I was fortunate to get that opportunity. Someone gave me an opportunity, and I wasn't going to let it slide. So I wasn't. I went out and I put what I could into it, and I got 9 years out of it. That's not bad. Most guys don't.
That's
even
great.
Don't even get anything close to that. So I was very.
So
fortunate.
I just think we could take. I just think that if you watch, I think the women provide a very valuable lesson with how they go about executing their college athletic careers, and I think we could all learn a valuable lesson from it.
All right, hey, we got a great question right here from Artie Schmidt. You ready? It's on the. I started a watch party. We're having a party on Facebook right now. You can do that, Webbs. So I started.
I have no idea what that is.
I know, but Artie Schmidt came on and he asked a question. Can you guys talk about hitting routines, correct repetitions, good strengthening routines for hitters, hand strength, core strength, how to pick up the release point, and be disciplined at swinging at strikes? And
anything else?
I know that was a lot. That was a lot. So, let's talk about the first part of that: hitting routines and correct repetitions. Let's do that. Go ahead. What's a hitting routine for a guy for you up in the Cape Cod League? What do you guys do like on a daily basis? What's the routine?
Well, first and foremost, I'll tell you what we do and what we have done. Even like when I was with the Mets, we did the same thing. Is there was no one thing that anyone did. Everybody's different. Everybody is different. And I really think you have to be careful about prescribing to everyone something that's going to work for everyone. I think you got to be careful about that. As far as the routine is concerned, I think you got to get to know your players and know what kind of learners are. Some guys need to take thousands of swings, otherwise they don't feel like they're ready. They don't. And I felt that our job, and I still feel this way, my job is not necessarily to get results. Obviously, I want results. But my job is to make my hitters walk up to the plate knowing they can hit.
Yeah.
Not feeling confident.
No.
Because confidence is a feeling. Knowledge is a fact. If a guy knows he can hit, he's going to endure failure a lot better. He's going to be able to flush bad at-bats quicker. When a guy just feels confident, he goes 0 for 2. He's thinking that his swing is flawed. And another thing that I believe if you're a decent player, now obviously if you're a player who can't play at all, it's a different story. But if you're a decent player, you're a lot closer to being really good than anybody gives you credit for. Most players don't need a breakdown and a reconstruction of their swing. I think that most guys have a good enough swing. Now, what most guys don't have, all right, is the stick-to-itiveness and the tenacity to take thousands and thousands and thousands of swings and reps. And what I've seen, and I could be wrong, is the great separator amongst the good players is the guys who early work is 11 o'clock. Tommy, can I meet you at 10:30? Early work is 12 o'clock. Tommy, can I meet you at 11 o'clock? Those guys, A.J. Graffinino, Hunter Bishop, who is right now, I spent more time with Hunter than maybe any player, I've ever spent, maybe like you and Hunter and A.J. I spent 2 complete summers. Hunter lived with us last year. And those guys, I see the palpable rewards. So Artie knows better than most. He was an outstanding player. So I think sometimes we make it more difficult than it has to be. I will say one thing that he touched upon, which I think is the most important. You cannot hit if you don't hit good pitches.
That is true.
You've got to hit good pitches.
If you're chasing a lot of bad ones.
And I'll tell you what, here's what you got to know. Very few pitchers work the inside part of the plate. So if I was a hitter today, I would give the pitcher the inner third of the plate because he rarely goes there. Most pitches are middle out because that's the vacant side of home plate. There's a batter standing in the batter's box. Most pitchers, unless they're really good, when they need a strike, they're going thigh high, outer third. That's you've thrown BP, what's the easiest thing to do? Throw it a little bit away from the hitter.
So they can extend and get,
right. If I was going to obsess on anything, it would be, listen, let's trace how many good pitches you're hitting, how many positive counts you get into, because hitting is far more the count than it is the swing.
And, we've talked about this before, but one of the best guys I ever saw to do that was my college teammate, Mike Venezia. That guy would keyhole. He would keyhole everything. I mean, right. He would take pitches that I was just like, I would never be able to take that pitch. I'm swinging at it. I'm just swinging at it.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. He had a certain, like a dull. I want to make sure I use the right word. He had this sort of dull complacency at the plate where, like a great musician, one thing about Venezia, never in a hurry. See, if you're in a hurry, you're probably not going to have great command of the strike zone. What I do with my hitters, especially like the evolved hitters, is I say, I'd rather you be late than early. Good hitters get jammed. Bad hitters run out of bat. They get out in front and they run out of bat. The really good hitters look like they're going to be late, they're going to be late, they're going to be late, and then they're not late. that's a skill that's really hard to develop unless you're a guy that takes thousands and thousands of swings.
No, that is true. So here's the other points that he made. Now, as far as hitting routines are concerned, with the youth guys that I have, we do a lot of drill work. When we get to the field, we have certain days where we hit, and then we have certain days where we do defense. But on the hitting days, we do stations. I break them up into groups of 4. Yeah. And then I just divide it up. We do hitting routines. They'll do soft toss at one. They'll do one-hand drills at another. They'll hit the little balls at another. They'll do tee work at another. I'll be in the cage with them throwing overhand so they can see overhand. I'll even be in the cage with them doing the underhand soft toss because I like that drill. Just so they can get their timing down and they can make contact. At the youth level, it's all about making contact,
Right.
There are so many different swings on my team, and I told the guys this the other day. I said, look, I'm not trying to make you guys all the same hitter. I work with each one of you differently. And they're just kind of looking at me like, what do you mean? Well, because your swing is not the same as his swing, Big Will Mertz, who's 6'3" at the age of 13, I'm not teaching him the same way the same
right.
way to hit as Big Will because you're a speed guy. You're fast, and I want you to hit the ball on the ground and use your legs. So, and they're like, oh, okay. So they kind of understand that when I work with them, I work with each individual based on what their capabilities are and what they can do.
Well, what else? What else can you do? I mean, if you're teaching 5 guys and you're all teaching them the same thing, chances are 2 of them are going to just zone out because it doesn't even apply to them. You have different guys at different skill levels. At every level, that's the way it is. Sure. You know that. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't. Obviously, when they're younger, the skill levels are gigantic because there's a size discrepancy. Yes. You have a 3-foot kid and a 10-foot kid. It's much harder at 11 than it is at 17 or 16 because they start to kind of get to be the same guy at some point. Mm-hmm. And I would also say this to Artie. I think that he played in an era when there were different values for hitting. I'd be out of my mind about not striking out.
Yeah,
you can't strike out, man. It's a killer. I'm sorry, unless you're playing in the major leagues, and that's the major leagues is such a different animal. But if you're a youth, think about this. Imagine being a kid in high school and going a whole season not striking out. You would hit 500. You would hit 500 if you didn't strike out. Mm-hmm. Because the field is so big. The players don't shrink the field.
No,
you'll be hitting ground balls in the middle, fly
balls
will fall in.
Yeah, they can't cover it.
Right,
they can't cover it.
Right.
They don't have the size, the speed.
And you'll enjoy the game.
Yeah. So Brian O'Neill jumped on board. He said, Weber, he says that, I think he's talking about Venezia. He said he had a good rhythm that allowed him to be patient the way he hit, the rhythm that he
rhythm's
had.
A big part of hitting. Rhythm is a big part of everything you do in sports. A very underrated thing, a very undertaught thing. You do need a good rhythm. Absolutely.
Yep.
You don't see many guys that you like as hitters that don't have a good, fluid, rhythmic swing.
Yeah. No, a rhythm is key. And,
right.
Different players have different ways to create that rhythm.
Absolutely.
I had a way, when I hit, I had this little sway that I did. Mike Schmidt had his hip thing. I was a Mike Schmidt fan. So what did I do? I imitated Mike Schmidt to an extent that worked for me. And that's what I did. Now, I didn't hit, 534 home runs like he did at the major league level, but hey, I hit some.
You have to be in motion.
Yes.
You can't be. Look, there's no such thing as a good hitter that looks stiff. You could tell a good hitter. They have a rhythm to them. They have a flow.
There's always something.
Right. All these words that we use that are they're dance words. They're music words. It's all a universal theme. You've got to be in rhythm to have success. It's like your heart. Your heart has to beat in rhythm. It's a human dynamic. You need to be rhythmic.
Yes.
Good. Look, what's good defense? But setting yourself up to throw rhythmically.
Yep. Artie Schmidt says that we're doing a great job. You always have to learn. He's loving listening to us and what we have to say. Kids are very
He's a good player, man. He should. I love hearing from guys like that. I wish we get more guys who are of that caliber to weigh in. I agree. It's great to have a dialogue with guys who played at a high. Were excellent players. And you really sense their affection for the game. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just enjoyed, and watching hitters like Mike Venezia and like, when I got the opportunity to play with the Orioles and I got to watch Rafael Palmeiro hit, and these guys just, man, they look, like you said, like they weren't in a hurry to do anything, but they had a rhythm about them and they were always moving. They always had this like thing going on, and they would get in there and their hands were going, and then they were
really
calm.
Musical.
Yeah,
very musical.
Calm. Like it was nothing. Like, yeah, here we go, another day at the beach. Let's go. And then you'd see guys get in there who were just like trying to kill everything, and then they wind up striking out because.
I'll say this: the last thing I will say, if a guy can hit, I don't go near him.
Yeah. No, me either. I don't say anything. And then they
I don't care what you're doing. I may hate your swing. You might be, you might have the worst looking mechanic. Are you hitting the ball? You getting hits?
Yes. Are you crushing it? You crushing it right now? Keep crushing it. But then they look at you like, but coach, I made an out last at bat. But yeah, so what? You're not going to get a hit every time. You know what I mean? Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great.
I have a kid that played for me in the Cape who's killing it this year. Another guy. We have a lot of guys that are having great seasons. It's so much fun to watch. But this guy, about a week ago, texted me, "What do you think of my swing?" I said, "Your swing. Yeah. You're like one of the best players in the country."
Yeah.
But this is the mentality. This is how hitters think today. Yeah. They don't think it's them. They think it's their swing. It's not your swing. It's you. You're good. You don't have to worry about your swing. Whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. I don't care. Whatever you eat for breakfast, eat the same breakfast. Yeah. Get to the ballpark the same time. Whatever your routine is, don't change anything.
Get out of your own way. Just let it happen. You know what? And it was the same thing back when I played and when you played. We did the same thing. Well,
there was less swing doctoring. It wasn't you. If you
were
hot,
yeah,
right. It wasn't like I was trying to. I might have been trying to improve my hitting, but I wasn't focused on the swing. I was focused on hitting more line drives or hitting the ball further or making better contact. It wasn't about creating a swing. They don't talk hitting anymore. They talk swing. And it's very different. Very different. Because what happens is, even if they get a good result, if they don't think they took a good swing, they want to change the swing.
Look, do you see Tulowitzki's home run yesterday that he hit? Yeah. Did you see how he hit that thing?
Yeah.
Off his front foot, out in front. It was a breaking ball, and he flicked it.
Breaking ball, right. Sped up his bat. Yep.
Yeah, and he flicked it to right field. He was way off bat. Look, I'll take it, man. If I get a hit, I get hit a home run doing that, I'll take it. I'm not going to. I agree. I'm not going to come back to the dugout and go reevaluate my entire swing and what I'm doing based on that. That was a good result. I took a bad swing, but it was still a good result. And you can take a great swing, the perfect swing, and do what? Hit a 5-foot ground ball back to the pitcher.
Right.
It happens.
Or pop up.
Yeah. So I mean, hitters get to like you said. Everything's got to be perfect every single time.
Right, and it doesn't have to be. The pitcher's not going to be perfect. You got to be an adapter. You got to, if it's on the outside, 2 strikes, you got to scramble a little bit. You got to get a little desperate, make contact, put the ball in play, hit a little, 58 hopper up the middle, whatever. I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat. You're not going to be perfect all the time. It's a tough game. Sports is tough.
All right, Artie Schmidt's got one more question. We'll spend a little time on this, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, so Artie says, can you talk about teaching the kids to train their eyes to catch up to the velocity and have their hands ready to improving on catching up to the baseball and staying inside of it? So what are things that you can do to pick up the baseball better, the velocity, and keeping their hands inside the baseball and being quick to the ball, I would say. That was his question.
There's no substitute. Joe Girardi said something great 2 years ago. He said, listen, velocity doesn't matter. If you see it enough, you'll catch up to it. So you got to see it a lot. The problem with velocity as a young kid is whatever level you're at, I don't know, let's say you're a 15-year-old. You're seeing a lot of guys throw 65 miles an hour. Then some guy throws 85 miles an hour. Well, there's no way you're going to catch up to that. You need to see velocity more so that you just naturally understand how to respond quicker. the whole action you have less time to respond. So I don't know that there's a substitute for that or a way to train other than experience. It's like, how do you learn how to catch a ball that's hit really hard at you? Well, if you've never seen a hard hit ball, that ball's going to beat you up the middle. Whereas if you've seen a million of them, you're going to learn, to take a drop step or whatever it might be and catch the ball. As far as staying, I am personally, I think I impress upon hitters that the dog wags the tail doesn't wag the dog. So I never talk about hands. I think your hands need to be passive and your body needs to be active. And and I also believe, I told you about, I'm talking with the Astros and we're having these great discussions, group texts about hitting and defense and all this stuff, really cool. And I said, I think the bat has to be weightless at some point. I think all good hitters, when they get their front foot down, their move, the bat has to get weightless and now respond to your body. If the bat feels weighted, you're going to throw the bat with your hands. And that's why I think the way kids get outside the ball is they work the bat with their hands rather than letting the bat respond to their body. If you let the bat respond to your body,
the hip rotation,
it will naturally,
is that what you're saying?
It will naturally drop underneath.
Yeah.
And now be weightless and be on online. Yes.
Yes.
So I that's what I do, but I don't think you hit with your hands. I think that's a misnomer. And I think when you start to get handsy is when you start to cast the bat.
With a lot of youth players, they cast the bat a lot. So
well, it's counterintuitive to have something in your hands and not want to throw it.
Yeah.
It's like the golf club. You want to throw the golf club, but you can't. The bat's got to be last. That bat head has to be the last thing,
yes.
Right? It can't be first.
If
it's first, you're in trouble.
What I'm trying to tell these kids, and I tell them to use their hands more, but I tell them to use their hands in conjunction with the rotation of their hips when they rotate. And a lot of the kids don't want to rotate. They have their body, their lower half, they just leave right out of the swing. So that means they're casting, they're trying to hit like this all
I'll tell you a cool drill. I'll give you a cool drill. Well, we did this a lot in the Cape. And as a matter of fact, we did this with Hunter. Because Hunter used to be a little bit, he's so friggin' athletic that he wants to do, and he can do everything. So that's actually a danger. We would have him take a stride, and I would grab the barrel. And I would just hold the barrel, and I tell him to swing. And sure enough, if you're trying to swing something that somebody's holding, he's left-handed, he'd go like this, and that bat would go, and he'd fight me to pull the bat, not to pull the bat, but to work his core, right, to get the bat through, and I would not let go of the barrel. And then we'd do that again, and then we'd do that again, and then we would soft toss him one and blend in a swing, and he'd start to feel what it feels like to have his body work, but his hands be passive. I think one of the great, if you want to look at a great photo, just look at the photos of Barry Bonds when his chest is pointing to right field and the bat is back behind him. That's how much Barry Bonds rotated before he, and I don't like to use the word swing anymore, before he released the bat. He creates great tension by letting his body move and the bat fall behind, and then he just releases the bat. Swing to me feels slow. It feels long. I like to talk about releasing it. Let it go.
Almost in an explosive fashion, though. When you
right.
decide to go, you explode.
Right. I want you to get to a point where the bat has no choice but to go.
Yes.
Once you release it, it's going. It's like, a spaceship. When they get to T-3 and counting, it's blasting off. That's the way I want my hitters to feel, rather than feeling for the ball with your hands.
Question. Pete Rose, do you think he was...
Oh, my God. I love Pete Rose.
Was he a handsy guy, though?
He was handsier.
Handsier.
I think he was handsier, yes.
I think he hit... And Ichiro, the same. Ichiro, I think, is the same kind of hitter. He would use his hands more, especially if he got beat or he was out, and then he would just flick his hands. Boom.
Yes.
But he knew how to do that. He knew how to adjust in the situation as it was happening. He could do that. Now, a guy like Mike Trout, he's not a handsy guy. No.
No.
He's the rotational, and it's coming. And when he lets it go, it goes.
Right. The guy I like to use is like Nolan Arenado. I mean, Arenado is just
he's the same. He's like Trout. Yeah, he swings like Trout does.
He stays in his posture. He doesn't stand up. He never backs out of the shot. He stays on top. He doesn't swing down, but his body stays on the ball for such a long time. Very hard, not to make solid contact if you stay. And you got and obviously you got to be strong to do that. But that's really you look at a guy like Arenado. I think he's got textbook perfect. I think he's by better mechanics than Mike. I think he's a better hitter than Mike Trout. But I think he's got perfect mechanics.
Okay, so we were talking about the velocity. Kids getting used to the velocity, seeing harder pitches. I do this with my kids sometimes. This is what I'll do. I'll have them get into the batter's box, and I'll have them stand there, and I'll have the pitcher throw, as hard. And then what I'll do is I'll take the same kid and the same pitcher, and I'll have the kids stand at home plate with their glove. And I'll have the pitcher throw the ball to them while they're standing there with their glove. And then I'll say to them, well, which one looks faster? And they say, well, when I was hitting. Why? Because as a fielder, when you're standing there trying to catch a ball, you aren't afraid of it. You're not afraid. You're not moving forward. Your body's not jumping at the ball. That's what you need to learn how to do as a hitter, is to stay and let the ball come to you. See it, right? And
yeah.
I try to show them that.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea. I have oftentimes given my hitters, if you're a right-handed hitter, right-handed thrower, get in the box, I stand 30 feet from you, and I throw you a pitch, and you catch it like a hitter, and then I would give you your bat and put the bat in your hand and make you see what that feels like. Catch it, head behind the ball, like a real, like a tag play where your head is behind the ball.
Sure.
And then feel what that feels like catching the ball. Especially when guys are antsy and they get out ahead of it. You really want to teach them how you can just catch it at the point of attack. I think that's a great drill.
Yeah, and that's what I do
with
the hitters.
Look, what we're describing here? What we're really describing here, and Artie knows this as well as anybody, is it takes millions of reps.
Yeah, you got to get out and you got to do
it. The mistake of instruction today is not what you're instructing. It's all good. I'm sure there's an element of, value in everything. The problem is they're just not doing it enough. Mm-hmm. They're not. The reason why you got to worry about whether or not guys can do certain things is guys aren't taking thousands of swings a week and taking thousands of reps a week. They're going to a clinic, or they're going to an instructor, and they're spending an hour here and they're spending an hour there. They're just not getting the requisite amount of repetition, so that somebody once told me you got to take enough ground balls so that every ball is familiar to you. No ball looks strange to you.
And you've got to take ground balls, like live ground balls, like off the bat during batting practice. You can't just take them off of a fungo. I mean, it's great. You got to read.
I'm a fanatic. I'm a fanatic for my guys reading, mentally leaning, understanding what it means to, you should be able to call the shot. Like when you see a guy swinging, when he gets his foot down and starts that swing, you should pretty much know if he's going to pull it or hit it the other way. Mm-hmm. And think about your ability to anticipate. If you're an outfielder or an infielder, if you're able to, really refine that and make that a really refined skill. But you can only do that if you're always doing it.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the strengths that I had as a defender, because, as a shortstop, I was 6'1". I was quick, but I wasn't the fastest guy out there. You know what I mean? I was quick with my first couple of steps, but I had that ability to anticipate. And I felt that was one of my strengths, that I had the ability to position myself in the right way. And I knew as soon as their swing started, I knew where that ball, which side of the field it was going to.
Big advantage.
Yeah, I knew it. As soon as they started, I was like, going the opposite way. I know it. I'm already leaning and anticipating that way. And that was a big help to me when I played. So, but how I developed that skill? Taking ground balls during batting practice off the bat. I always loved doing that. And taking fungos over and over and over again,
Just to give you an idea of the volume, when I met AJ Graffinino in 2016 in the Cape, we became really fast friends. I said to AJ, you need to take probably, I would say 6,000 to 7,000 ground balls this summer. It's a 40-game season. I want you to take at least 150 every single day. AJ would take 150 ground balls every single. I mean, I hit him so many ground balls it got ridiculous. He was there early, late, in between, whatever it was. He got so many ground balls it was ridiculous. So, obviously he's a genetic. He hit the genetic lottery. He's 6'3" and could run like the wind and all that. But he augmented that with a desire that was just second to none. So his craft was so honed after 2 seasons. I'm not surprised that he's having the success in pro ball that he is.
Yeah. All right, Webbs, we've been on for an hour now, which is
awesome.
It's been pretty good. And we probably could stay on for another hour with all the stuff, Artie asked
us.
Well,
I think when we conceived of this is kind of how we saw it going. This is really what we want to talk about. I mean,
I want people to ask us questions. Yeah.
I don't care what Aaron Judge's batting average is. To me, that doesn't,
Bryce Harper hit a 465-foot home run. I don't care either, but it was something to talk about.
Yes. Right.
But yeah, I like talking about this
stuff. That really is cool.
Yeah, the inner workings of what goes on, from development of a player from when they're a kid until they're at the professional level.
Right, and we all have an obligation to just give them more and more and more, and they'll be fine. Believe me.
Yeah, and let them have fun. Let them play. Let them get out there and do their thing, and don't put that pressure on them. Enjoy the moment, like you said today. We talked about it when we were talking about women's.
Check out my Sundays with Tommy. That's what it's about.
All right, and where can they check that out, man? Let me bring that up real quick.
They can check out Sundays with Tommy on Twitter.
All right.
My Twitter feed. They could check it out on Instagram, Facebook. There we are. Tony Los. He's going to go high in the draft. Yeah, that never gets old, baby.
And they can check it out.
Graffinino and Jason Kanzler.
There you go.
Tied. Another championship team there. Very good.
All right. So they can go to TommyWeberBaseball.com. Is that?
Yeah, and you could go to check out my Twitter, Tommy Weber B-Ball, and my Instagram, and I got a lot of cool stuff, a lot of fun stuff. I love hearing from people. I love suggestions, criticisms, make fun of me. I got a big head. Okay, let's start with that. All right, my head's big. There we go. Nothing I can do about it.
It is what it is. So, everybody, thank you for joining us. We did that watch party tonight, Weber. That was the first time we did that. We had a lot of people join, which was really nice. The list just kept running through. Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of familiar names. Stu Plotkin is on here. Megan Minderline, who went to Wagner College.
I remember her.
Megan Miller. Yeah, she played basketball. Miller. Yeah, and she was great.
Tell her to check out my Sundays with Tommy. All about women athletes. I love women athletes.
Fantastic. Renee, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Renee.
Yes. Everybody at home, thank you for joining us on this Sunday night. Remember, we always love the questions about the game. Artie, thanks for those questions tonight.
Great.
Sorry we didn't get to all of them. There were a lot. He asked a lot of questions. So,
if we had T-shirts, Artie would have gotten a T-shirt.
We do have T-shirts. I got them. I got a box.
I
got a box of T-shirts.
Send Artie a T-shirt.
I'll send them one.
Go Sun Devils. Go Sun Devils.
I will be up in your neighborhood tomorrow.
All right.
I'll see you up there.
All right.
So
all right, man.
I'll stop by your house and
love
harass you. All right, man.
Yep.
See ya.
Good.
Have a good night.